You notice this nice looking picture on the front there. Let me ask you a question before we get started. How would it feel if you woke up tomorrow and had no more debt? What's some of the things that you might do? Would it be take a travel vacation somewhere like this here, or would it be that maybe you can help your kids out, or maybe you could just, help kids or grandkids with college? And there's a lot of different things you could do if you just woke up. Imagine that, no debt tomorrow. Well, let's go ahead and get started, because that's what we're here tonight, is to talk about how we can eliminate the debt. If you're one of them people that's on this call and you want to get out of debt sooner than later, then you came to the right place here tonight. I promise you, you will learn some things tonight, and then you'll be happy that you was on the call. Here we go. First thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the product. The product is a mentoring coaching system that helps the client accomplish the following. Pays off all your debts and mortgage in as little as 1/2 to 1/3 of the time. And by the way, could somebody type in there that you can hear me, so before I go on further here? Just type in yes, and then we're good. Also, there's no refinancing of your current mortgage required. Thank you. Little or no change in your lifestyle. And you know what? Potentially saving the client hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, folks, if that was true, that would be pretty incredible, wouldn't it? Well, I know how you feel. I felt the same way. See, back 4 years ago, I got a phone call from a friend of mine that said, Ken, I'm going to pay off my 30-year mortgage in 10.9 years, and I'm going to save over $300,000. I said, well, good for you, George. He said, no. He said, Ken, listen to me. He said, I didn't have to refinance, change my lifestyle, or come up with additional income. I said, yeah, right. How are you going to do that? And he said, well, I'm coming to see you. So he flew down here from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I invited some folks over to my house. My son's a pastor. He had 29 years left on his mortgage. He's down to under 8 years. I invited another couple named Stan and Mary. They were 72 years of age. They had 22 years left on one house, 17 on another one. And George ran the numbers and said that they was going to pay off both houses without changing their lifestyle in 3.8 years. Well, folks, that sounded too good to be true to me. And I'll tell you what, they looked at me and they said, what do you think, Ken? I said, well, hey, if it doesn't work, don't be mad at me. I mean, we didn't know what we know today. Folks, today we have people that are out of debt 4 years later that used to have 26, 27, 28 years on their mortgage. We have that today. We didn't have that 4 years ago. And they thought, what are we taking a chance on? Lose a lot of interest and a lot of time. So they got on the program. Well, 3 weeks after they got on the program, I was in a little restaurant, and they walked in. I was sitting there, my wife and I. They walked in. They seen us. They came over to the table. I stood up. They gave us a hug, and they said, we don't have 3.8 years. We're down to 2.9. I went, you're kidding me. How'd you do that? Like I didn't really believe in it, because I didn't. I didn't understand what we had then. Do you know what? In less than 3 years, they were done. Not 3.8, but 3 years. They referred 6 of their kids to me. Folks, so I know how you feel, but we're going to show you plenty of proof tonight and how a mortgage works. Tonight you're going to learn how a mortgage works. And to be honest with you, I've sat down with bankers, I've sat down with a mortgage person, and I show them how mortgage works, and guess what? I've only had one banker come close to how mortgage works. Haven't found any mortgage people that understand a mortgage. Tonight you're going to see that. So we're going to show you that tonight. We're also going to show you how it works. So let's get started. You've seen this word FedEx before. Have you ever noticed the arrow in the word FedEx? There's an arrow there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. There it is. If you didn't see it, there it is. Now, the reason I show that is because a lot of things are right before our face, but we've not been shown it. And tonight, you understand a mortgage. You know if you send extra money to your mortgage, you're going to save time and years. I mean, there's probably not a person out there that doesn't know that part, but we're going to look at how it works, and I promise you, you're going to learn something tonight. But look at that. It's right there in front of our nose. Until we've been shown, we've never seen it. Let's look at a standard mortgage tonight. Let's look at a $200,000 principal loan amount, 6% interest. The payment's $1199.10 per month. That's 360 months. You will pay back $431,677. Wow, that's $200,000 principal loan amount. You're going to pay back $231,000 just in interest. You know, the problems out there is little to no financial education out there in school. You know, I deal with a lot of teachers and principals, and I say, what I'm getting ready to show you should be taught in every high school and every college in America. You know what they say? After they see it, they said, you're exactly right. You see, here's what kind of financial education I got. Think back when you went to school. In 1977, when I graduated, the last 30 days before I graduated, they were teaching us how to write a check. Not how to balance it, but how to write one. Now think about that for a minute. That was my financial education throughout my school years. Today, they don't even teach that. Okay? So I'm going to show you something that should be taught. Let's look at that $200,000, 6%, 30 years at $11.99. Let's look at the month one. You see, month one, you pay that payment, $199.10 goes to principal, $1,000 goes to interest. Look at month two. Ooh, it went up a whopping $1. Maybe that's why it takes 30 years, right? Look at this. After 1 year, you've paid out $14,000 out of your pocket. That's after tax dollars. You paid that out, and you only got credit for $2,400. If you subtract 24 from 14, you got $11,000 in taxes. I mean interest, just interest. So they charge you $11,000 in interest to give you credit for $2,400. Hey, if you stayed in the house for 5 years, you would have paid in a total of $71,000, only got credit for $13,000. Now, that's large because that's $58,000 in interest. Now, you know what the national average is for refinancing? The national average is every 3 to 5 years people refinance. That's the national average. Now, watch this. I got an article out of the Kyla Star-Banner the other day, and I was reading it, and every time I do a presentation in person, I read that to people, and they all agree with it. They agree with the guy. See, what do you think? If you're sitting with your spouse, say the answer to them. He says, I locked in an interest rate of 4.25. I'm saving $160 a month. Anytime you can save $1, why not? Now, we all agree with that, don't we? I mean, shoot. Isn't that a good thing? $160 a month savings? Well, folks, I wanted to see what it was costing him to do it. So here's what I did. Let's say he had this $200,000 mortgage, and he was in his 5th year, and he refinanced back to day one. Well, you take the 13 from the 71, that's $58,000 in interest that he already paid out. Now he goes back to day one, but he's saving $160 a month. So I took $160 times 12 months times 5 years, he's saving $9,600. But by the time he gets here the second time, it cost him another $58,000. So that's 58 and 58. That's $116,000 to save $9,600. Now, was that a wise decision? I don't think so. You know what the wise decision is? Is what if we can pay that mortgage off in half to 1/3 the time? That would be the right decision. See, to get somewhere, you got to know where you're going. And that's the problem. We are all educated on how to make money, not how money works. Look at this. If you stayed in that house for 10 years, you would have paid in $143,000, only $32,000 went to equity. Do you know it takes 21 years before you get half the equity, but yet you still owe half the money and you paid in over $300,000? Let me ask you a question tonight. You on the call tonight, let me ask you, how many of you have lived in the same house 21 years and have not refinanced? See, you know, I've said that in front of 50, 100, 200 people around the country, and guess what? I've only found one hand go up. Lived in the same house 21 years and have not refinanced. I've met one couple, and they're usually an older couple. All right? Watch this. If you stayed there all 30 years, never missed a payment, you'd pay back $431,000. That is $231,677 in interest. Now, let's look at the effective rate on that. You see, it is a 6% payment. It is a 6% interest rate. But, folks, if I borrow $200 and I pay back $400, isn't that 100%? And if I pay back if I pay back $31,000, isn't that 16%? So what you actually paid, if you borrowed $2 and you paid back $4, you paid an effective interest rate of 116%. That's what that's what you paid out of your pocket, not 6%. Hey, you know what Albert Einstein said? He said he called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Here's the equation to compound interest. He also said this: there are 2 types of people in this world, those who pay interest and those who earn interest. I want to say something. Can y'all hear me? Somebody typed in there, sound's gone. Can y'all hear me? Somebody typed in there, yes. Okay, great, thank you. Somebody typed in there, Now, which one are you? Are you the person that pays interest? Or are you the one that earns interest? Which one would you want to be? All right? Next, prepayment of principal. Let's take a look at that for a minute. We have the right to make payments of principal at any time before they are due. A payment of principal only is known as a prepayment. Now, listen, anybody that got a mortgage has this prepayment of principal in the back of their paperwork. That means that you can make payments towards principal at any time. We understand that. Let's look at an amortization schedule right now. They usually look like this, and they're 8 to 9 pages long. Now let's look at month 1. This is January. We're going to make that first payment, $1199.10. $199.10 goes to principal. $1,000 goes to interest. And there's our balance. Now, if you're sitting with somebody, I want you to say this to that person. I want you to answer this question. If you're new on this call tonight, if I go ahead and make that payment in January, $1199.10, and I send that extra $200.10, I go ahead and send that principal right here. Can you tell the person sitting next to you what happened? What happens next? Well, here's exactly what happens. If you did send that $200 in, your next payment would be line 3, and you would not have to pay that $999 in interest. And see, that $210 would come right off of this here, and you would have a balance of that. So let me ask you a question. If you had the money, would you trade $200 to save $999? I bet you if you had it, you would. Hey, now let's think back about 5, 6 years ago when the economy was booming, and people, I remember people saying, you know, my accountant told me I need to buy a truck because I don't know what to do with my money. Do you think if they knew that, they might have done that? Sent that $200 to save $999? Now, folks, what I'm showing you here tonight is not what we do, but what I want you to understand is how a mortgage works. Now, let's go on. It gets better. In January, you paid $1199.10, leaving the primary balance on your mortgage of $199,800. Remember, the bar is right to prepay. Always remember that. Now, what if you sent 3 months of principal equaling $603.30? So we make the first payment. Now, the bank can only make you, or the mortgage company, can only require you to make one payment per month. But you always have to make a payment every month. But watch this. What would happen if we sent that $603.30 in? If we sent that in with that first payment, here's what would happen. We would start February on line 5. So we went from January, we went all the way down here, and that would be our next payment. That $603 added to your principal would have saved you $2,994. Wow. Now let me ask you a question. If you had it, would you trade $603 to save $3,000? That's what I thought. Let's go on. Now, at the end of the first year, you've paid off $2,456.01. Right there it is. That's cumulative principal. That's all the principal added up. Right there it is. And what's this? And the bank only charged you $11,933 to do it? Now, if you heard a little sarcasm in my voice, I'm sorry. But that's because there probably was. You paid $11,939 to get credit for $2,456. Now, listen, folks, I'm not here to bash the bank. Listen, could you be in your house right now if it wasn't for the bank? That's okay. So we need the bank, but listen, we also know that knowledge is power. So after tonight, what I do expect is that you change what you're doing and you start doing something for you and your family. That's what I expect. Now, what if you paid the balance on the principal amount for that 12 months? Let's say you went ahead and made that first payment and you sent in the rest of this principal and it totaled up $2,456. Guess what? Your next payment would be line 13 right there, and you would have saved 11 months of payments. 11 months of payments. So that $2,456 would have saved you $11,933.19. Now, I know for sure if you had $2,400, you'd trade that for almost $12,000 all day long. I just want you to understand this how a mortgage works. Now let's talk about leverage. Some of you have already done this. and didn't even know what you were doing. But some of you, I've had people say to me, well, Ken, I already do that. Let's look at it. Let's say you have a credit card, you go shopping with the family, you spend about $500, and you go shopping. You get the bill at the end of the month, and if you pay that off in full at the end of the month, you don't pay any interest, right? You say, well, that's what I do already. Good for you. You just use the lender's money interest-free for 25 to 30 days. All right? You just use leverage. Okay, now some of you understand that leverage, but you know what? You can do this with many banking tools. You more than likely have more than one of them. Well, let's see. What do you mean, Ken? Well, let's see. Personal line of credit, a home equity line of credit, checking account, savings account, credit cards, and there's others out there, tools that you can use to your benefit to help you. But you know what? Remember what I talked about, that school of education, that financial education that we didn't receive? That's what I'm talking about. So now you and I have been invited tonight to go to a party, John and Rebecca's house, and they're having a party because they used to owe $200,000 on their mortgage. They're now down to $190,000. They've knocked $10,000 off the principal, and they're having a party tonight, and they invited you and I to come to that party. We get there, we knock on the door, they say, come on in. We walk into the house. I look at John and Rebecca, and I say, what did it cost you to knock that $10,000 off your mortgage? What did it cost you to do that? And John looks at me and says, I don't know. I said, well, why don't we pull up an amortization schedule? He said, that's a good idea. So we pull one up. Now, we get that amortization. We start up at month 1, and we come all the way down here to month 45, and we come across, and there it is, $10,019.53. So we've knocked $10,000 off the principal. There's our balance, $189. So that's right at $190,000. And I say, well, what did it cost you? And he goes, I don't know. Well, look at here. It cost $43,939.97 in interest plus the $10,000 in principal. So they paid $53,939, and they only got credit for $10,000. Now, folks, does that sound like a heck of a deal? Okay. Now, what's this? We're going to use one of those tools, and it's called a home equity line of credit. Now, I'm only using this for illustration purpose. I'm going to show you just in a minute my brother could not get an equity line of credit. He's living paycheck to paycheck. After he pays all his bills, he has $50 left at the end of the month. He went from 28 years down to 7 years, saving him $125,000. But I'm just going to use this for illustration purposes now. Now, let's look at this a minute. Y'all understand what a home equity line of credit is? Watch this. What if I borrow $10,019.53? Now, wait a minute. Whose money is that, folks? You're right. It's the bank's. See, I had a gentleman one day look at me, and he said, well, that's my money. I said, well, sir, if you don't pay that back, whose money is it? You see, if it's your money, you don't have to pay it back, right? Well, I said, what if we borrowed $10,000 from your home equity line of credit, and we took that and put it towards the mortgage right here? You know what we would have done if we did that? I would have saved $43,000 in interest and 43 payments. All these interest payments from here all the way up, I would not have to pay. That would have saved me $43,000 and 43 payments. Now, you have to ask yourself, there's two questions you have to ask yourself. Is what's the cost and what's the benefit? So you have to ask, what's the cost and what's the benefit? Well, the benefit is it would save me $43,939 in interest and 43 payments. I would be ahead. I would skip those payments. So that's the benefit. Now, what's the cost? Well, folks, if you borrow $10,000 from the home equity line of credit at 3% on a interest only, that's cheap money. That payment would be about $30 a month. Now, take $30 times 12 months, that's $360. Is it worth spending $360 a year to save $43,000 and jumping up to line number 46, the next payment? So there's what's the cost and what's the benefit. See, if it costs $43,000 to do that, if it cost me $43,000 to borrow 10, then I'd say it wouldn't be worth doing. Let's go on. Now, how would you pay off this debt? You have a line of credit, $21,000. You have a furniture payment. You have a mortgage. You have a trailer loan. You have an ATV loan. You have a car loan. Now, this could be credit cards, it doesn't matter, but you have 6 debts there. How would you pay this off? See, each one of these debts come with an amortization schedule. Each and every one of them have an amortization schedule just like that mortgage. What would you send? When would you send it? How much would you send? And what day would you send it? Now, there's some professionals out there that say, some of them say, pay off the highest interest rate. Well, folks, that means I would pay off this one first. Then I would roll it over here and pay off the car loan. Then I would come over here and pay off the mortgage and then go like that. And you know what? That's one way of doing it. Then there's some other experts out there that say pay off the lowest amount due on the credit card, then take that payment and roll it to the next one, and then roll it to the next one, then to the next one. You know what? That's another good idea. That'll work. But let me ask you a question. Is that the right way? Absolutely not. You see, our program takes 24 pages of algorithms. It calculates all the interest rates, when the payment's due, and exactly when it's paid. See, you got to understand how a line of credit works. That's cheap money. See, that's not compounded. That's daily average interest. So anyway, there's several ways of doing that, but there's only one right way. Now let's take a look at my brother's analysis. My brother is a typical American. He bought a house 23 years ago, and he got it for $50,000. It has an in-ground pool, nice house, nice neighborhood, but 23 years later, look what he owes on it. He owes $104,921. Did he go the wrong way? Absolutely. Do you know that 85% of America does that same thing? It's called refinancing. Or maybe it's called, well, I outgrew this house, I built some equity, and then I bought a bigger house. And you put all that debt back into that house. Then you stayed there for 5 to 7 years, and then you bought another house. You did the same thing he did. He just stayed in the same house 23 years. See, when his father-in-law died, his mother-in-law said, you can have it for what I owe on it, and she owed $50,000. That's what he got it for. Now, not only does he owe that $104,000, but he owes all this other debt, which totals up to $141,000. His payments, minimum payments, is $2,369 a month. Now, folks, if he didn't have that debt right there and he wanted to go on vacation, and his wife said, let's go here, and he'd say, well, honey, that's going to cost us $6,000. Hey, no problem. In 3 months, we'll have it. We'll pay cash. You see, if he didn't know that stuff, he could pay cash, right? But you know what? He's living paycheck to paycheck. Look at here. His net income is $2,699 a month. His wife is $1,208. That's $3,907 a month net income. Okay? Now, the only reason I'm showing his numbers is because he told me that I could. I would never show anybody's numbers unless they told me I could. Okay? Now, right here, that's his income, $3,907. There's the $2,369 that he pays out, and after he pays all his bills, he only has $50 left at the end of the month. Now, $1,400 goes to living expenses, so he's living paycheck to paycheck. But I want to ask you a question, folks. If you got a 50-cent raise, what would it do to your lifestyle right now? Go ahead and answer it if you're sitting next to somebody. You know what 99.9% of the people say? As soon as I don't even get the question out of my mouth, they go, nothing. Well, you know what? That's how I always felt too. But let's look at that. 50 cents an hour times 40 hours is $20. Times 4 weeks is $80. Let's see what $50 is going to do to my brother. Okay? See, he has 28 years left on that mortgage. And here's what our company guarantees in writing that they will do if he will listen to them. Here's what it says. It guarantees him that he will save $125,000 in interest. He'll be out of debt in 7 years, saving 20.8 years. Now, folks, he's 48 years old right now. In 7 years from now, he'd be 55. That is 10 years before retirement. Now, would you rather be out of debt 10 years before retirement or be in your late 70s when you get out of debt? And what means he's going to do it in 28 years from now? If you add that 20 and that 7, that's 28 years from now. Guess what? He probably won't pay it off in the next 28 years if he didn't have this program. See, to get somewhere, you got to know where you're going, and this helps you to get there. So based on his debt, based on his income, based on his $50, we put a plan of action to get him out of debt in 7 years. Now, I want to go and show you how the software works, how it works. And remember, it's not just software. It comes with coaching and education. All right? So we're going to go log in. Now I want you to understand something. This is not something that goes into your computer. This is web-based. So if you're on vacation, you're over at some friend's house, wherever you're at, as long as you can get on the internet, you can log on from any computer. So I'm going to go in here and log on, and we're going to do that. I'm typing with one finger, and I'm not that good with two anyway. So excuse me. And we're going to put in our password. And I'm going to log in. Now, as I log in, there'll be a security question that comes up, and I'm going to answer that security question. Now, I want you to understand something, too. I could register this computer so I could skip these questions, but I use this to show you. Now, this says, how many bones have I broke? Well, there's about 4 questions, and I answer, each time I log in, it'll ask me it'll change the question. I'm logging in. Now, this is an example of John and Rebecca Jones. They have a $200,000 mortgage. So they owe $200,000, and we're going to have them out of debt in 8.7 years. Now remember, on that they were going to pay $231,000 just in interest, right? Look right here, interest remaining $61,000. Now let me ask you a question: do you want to pay $231,000 interest, or do you want to pay $61,000? Obviously, it's the $61,000. Look over here, potential savings of $174,000. Now it's $174,000 in John and Rebecca's pocket instead of the bank's. Now, this is called our dashboard up here. Just like if you understand how a GPS works, you put it up there, and it's kind of your dashboard how to get somewhere, right? See, to get somewhere, I keep saying you got to know how to get there. We don't know. This is our date to be out of debt. Now, this is our interest remaining. If I come across that little plus sign, this pops up. I could change that. I can make my dashboard however I want to make it. I could put up there the payoff date. John and Rebecca be out of debt on 4/20/2019. I can go in there and I can change it to principal paid. I can change this to whatever I want. So I'm going to leave it at interest remaining so we can see that. Now this is called the action plan. There's only 4 tabs. It's very simple. It took me about 30 minutes to learn this, and I am not a computer. You've seen how long it took me to log in, okay? Action plan, budget, accounts, and reports. 4 tabs. Now, this is the action plan. This is money coming in and where it's going to. So, in other words, from and to. You get paid. John gets paid $1,300 semi-monthly. He's going to take that money, instead of putting it in his checking account, he's going to put it in his home equity line of credit. Now, remember what I said earlier. We're showing a home equity line of credit. Now, I showed you my brother's. He doesn't have an equity line. He went from 28 years down to 7. Now he's down under 6 years, okay? So I want you to know you don't have to have that. I'm using it as to kind of speed this up tonight to show you how it works. So these are where it's coming from and where it's going to. All right, now I'm going to go here. You see the mortgage here. Instead of being paid out of the checking, it's being paid out of the home equity line. First mortgage, $1199.10. Now I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go right here and hit execute. And now, when you pay your bills, let me ask you a question. When you pay your bills, do you probably have somewhere where you write down that you made that payment, right? I used to have a book, and I checked off that I made that payment on whatever my payments were. This says it's going to the first mortgage from my home equity line. Now, I'm just letting it know that I did that. So I logged on there. I hit final transaction. If this amount's different, I could change it. And I'm going to hit execute. Now, I want you to look up here at the $61,000 in interest and see what, oh, it just went down to 60. Now, why is that? Well, remember the $199.10 that went to principal and the $1,000 that went to interest? Well, there it is. Now, why do we need this? So we won't have to pay so much in interest. I mean, that's the main game here, is putting the money in your pocket. All right? So let's check it out here. So now we're down to $60,000. Now, here's the neat thing. This is August. This shows 3 months of what's coming in and what's going out there. See, we got September and October. It always shows 3 months of what we have coming in and going out. All right? So let me pull that back up here. Now, I want to go to the accounts, so we're going to leave the action plan. This is always where you let it know. Now, with this version here that just came out, guess what? I could have it set up automatically where when my check gets to the bank and it's my mortgage payments cash today at midnight, it'll come in here and subtract from here, and I don't even have to do it personally. It'll do it automatically. But let's go to accounts, and let's click on the accounts. Now, I want to show you the accounts, and again, within seconds, we're going over there to accounts. Now, here's the cool thing about this. Have you ever, I don't know about you, but let's say you have a checking account with one bank, and you do online banking, and then let's say you have a credit card with another bank, you have your mortgage with somebody else, and a car payment with somebody else. To look at all four of those things, you have to go to 4 different sites, don't you? Well, if you're with us, they're all right here on one page. You see, there's my checking account. I can look at it. I don't have to go to the bank's office. If I spend $50 today at midnight tonight, that will come in here and subtract from here, and guess what? It'd be $450. I can see it at any time I want right there, okay? Now, here's the neat thing about it. Not only are we paying off a 30-year mortgage in 8.7 years now, we're paying, that's included an auto loan at 4% interest rate, 60 months, $25,000. We're paying $460 a month. It also has a Visa in here, 21% interest rate, $2,000, $50 payment. Here's our mortgage, 6%, 360 months. It was $200, but remember we made that payment of $1199.10? It dropped down. Now, I don't know if you all remember this, but do you remember the time where years ago, some of you will remember this, some won't, that's okay. You remember the banks got caught not placing money in the right places, like people that did biweekly or people that did things. Look, it happens all the time. Let me prove to you it's happened to you. Let's say that you have a $600 credit card and your payment's $50. Let's say that one month you decide to send them the $50 plus an extra $200. So you want the $50 to go to payment and the other $200 to drop it from $600 to $400, but you get your next statement and guess what it said? Zero balance owed next month. Zero payment due next month. Does any of you remember that? Now, folks, is that what you wanted to happen? Did you want them to not have to make a payment for the next 4 or 5 months, or did you want it to go from $600 down to $400? That's what I thought. You see, I was younger, and the first time that ever happened to me, I said to my wife, hey, honey, guess what? We don't owe nothing this money. Let's go to a movie and have dinner. You know, it's funny, don't you spend what you make? Well, what's this? See, we made that mortgage payment right there. I can go over here to history. I'm going to click on history, and this is what I think is very cool, is that it's going to show me that I made my payment. There's my balance. $199 went to principal, $1,000 went to interest. Look what it's going to do next month. It's going up $1. See, I got $1 more going to principal and $1 less going to interest, just like I showed you in the amortization schedule. Now, if you get your statement and this is not the right amount, somebody made a mistake, and it probably wasn't us. Now, I'm going to show you here in a minute something else, and we're going to come back to this. So let's go back up here to accounts. Now, let me ask you another question while I'm here in accounts. Let me ask you this one. Have you ever tried to make well, I got to go to budget on that. So let me say this. You can set this up to where it shows just bank accounts, credit loans, mortgages. I had a couple the other day. They had 10 mortgages, and they says it was going to save them over $600,000. They only had $100 left at the end of the month. It's going to save them $600,000, pay off all the properties early. And you know what they said? We need it just for this reason right here. Do you know what it's like to track 10 properties and know if they're doing the right thing? Or you can set up where all accounts here, okay? Now let's go back to the action plan, and we're going to go ahead and say that we paid the rest of these bills. Now, folks, if we take from our home equity line, if we take that $6,000 right here and we send it to the first mortgage, guess what's going to happen? We're going to save time and interest. Can anybody tell me how much interest we're going to save? Not really. Okay, we don't know. We just know it's going to do something, okay? Now, whose money are we using? We're using the bank's money. Now, I'm just doing this to show you with an equity line up front, or if not, I'd have to wait a few months, okay? But we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on here, select for the month. That means we've paid all these bills. Our checks went into the bank, and we paid the bills. And before I do that, you see this here, true cost? Look at that true cost there. You see that 135 on the phone bill? If I click on that true cost, guess what that does? It says that it's really costing me $211.20 for that $135. In other words, if I didn't spend that $135, it would be worth $211 towards interest. What's that mean, Ken? Well, I can go over here and add new action. Let's say I want to buy a couch and it's $5,000. I click on there, add that couch, and I hit the true cost button, and guess what? It comes up and says that couch is really costing me $11,261.12. Why? Because if I hadn't spent that $5,000, it would have went towards debt. So what it really cost me is the true cost. Now, if you don't like that, you just click it off, and you don't have to look at it. That's up to you. But anyway, we've paid these bills. We've paid all the bills, the auto loan and everything, and I'm going to click on Execute Multiple Actions. Now, here they are. Now, here's the phone bill. Let's say it wasn't $135. Let's say that it was, let's say that we ran over this month, and it was $200. So we go in here and punch in $200 because at that time we can change it. I hit Select All. That means Final Transaction on all. Now I'm going to hit Execute. When I do, let's see how much interest that saved us. Remember sending that money to the principal on the mortgage? Let's hit Execute. Let's see what it saved us. Anybody got a clue? Well, $32,000. Now think about that for a minute. $32,000. We used somebody else's money, $6,000. That was the bank's money, and we knocked off $32,000. Okay? Down to the penny, we know 57 cents exactly where we're at and what it did for us. Now the next month comes up September. Okay? Now let's go to accounts and let's see what the history says about that. And this, I'm about done here. I got budget and reports, and I'm done. Let's go back to history on that mortgage. I click on that. It says $11.99 went to right here to principal, $1,000 went to interest. Now, because I made that and we made that $6,000 transfer, our balance is $193. But let's go over here and look what happened there. We now have our next payment, $233 is going to go to principal. Well, wait a minute. It was $1 going up $1 a month. Now we're up to $233. Guess what? That is, well, $199. That is 24 payments we just skipped of $1,000. Okay? That's what we just skipped. So if I get a statement from the bank, which I had a client did that right here in town, they got their statement from the bank, and it said that they owed this much, and our program said they owed this much. It was almost $3,000. They went into the bank, they explained to them, they showed them what they had, they took their laptop and explained to them. Mr. Banker said, you know what, we'll check into it. He did. He came back, he called Mr. and Mrs. Tyler up, he said, we apologize, we did make a mistake, we found a mistake, and we corrected it. Now, if they hadn't had this, guess what? They might have not have caught that mistake. $3,000. Now, let's go to budget. Here's another thing that's a problem out there. Let's say that have you ever tried to figure out a budget for eating out? For going out and eating. Now, this is cool. You see, let's say I set a budget for $415 a month to eat out. Now, how many of you come home, write down what your dinner was, and then the next time you eat, come home and write that down, and you add it up, and you try to stay on a budget? It's hard to do, right? Well, as we fill this up, as we spend our budget, this starts filling up in blue, all right? Now, I can have it set for where it will text me at $300. So all of a sudden, it's the 15th of the month, and I get a text, and it says, Ken, you've spent $300 of the $415. Now, that tells me two things there. I better slow down, or I'm not going to hit my budget. It's not going to cut me off. It's not going to make my credit card not work. It's just going to cut me off right then. And so I have a budget, and I can set up a budget for anything. I mean, I can set up, it's real simple to set up. I can go here, add another expense. Let's say I want to set up a budget for gas. And this is what I like about this, is because I can go in here and I can say, let's just put in there BP. BP, everybody knows that one. And I'm going to select category. I click on category and watch what happens. This comes up. Now I'm going to scroll down here. You see, anything that I click on, it has different things. Let's go down to, let's go on down here. So know what I pick on. I go to vehicles and transportation. I come over here and I go to gas and fuel. Now watch this. Every time my credit card swipes out there, it recognizes it. If I want this for tax purposes, it'll put it in a tax file. I can set that up. And I hit save, and guess what? Oh, I didn't put the amount in there. I'm sorry. So I'm going to have to go back and put the amount in there. But there it is, BP. I didn't put the amount, but I could have put in there $500, and I want it to text me when it gets to $400. I can do that. I can set budgets now, and it's going to help me. So the accounts has all your accounts in one page. You don't have to go to several different websites to look at them. They're all on one page. And here's your budgeting tool. And this is John, semi-monthly, gets $1,300 a month, semi-monthly. Rebecca gets that. If I wanted to change that, I click Edit. I can change that at any time. All right? Just go in there and change their budget. Their income. Now, here's a cool one. Remember I said it didn't matter whether you used a home equity line or a checking and savings account by a difference of a few months. Watch this. If you want a live chat, we have live chat. We have help. It has videos. We have settings. I'm going to go down here to preferences. And let me ask you this question here. What do you think if John and Rebecca could pay off their 30-year mortgage in 15 years, okay, and have $200,000 in the bank? You think that would excite him? I thought so. Look here, 8.7 years if you had a HELOC, and if you have a checking and savings account, it's 9.5. So that's a difference of about 8 months, okay? Now watch this. Not only in 8.7 years are we going to pay off John and Rebecca's 30-year mortgage, the car at $25,000, the credit card, and the home equity line, we're also going to have $2,000 in emergency fund. That's what we're going to have set up first. Now, we can change that, and check this out. Let's say I go down here, and I want to change that. I can go to medium, high, or I can go to other. And I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to change this. I would like to have $200,000 in the bank. So 200,123.00. Now, when I hit save, I want you to look up there at the time. Now, do you know exactly what that would do to you? 8.7, we know it's going to go up. Let's see what it does. Oh, 14.7. Now listen, folks, if you could pay off your 30-year mortgage in half the time and have $200,000 in a savings account, would that be exciting? Now look here. We were going to save $173,000. Now we're only going to save $101,000. Okay? We were going to pay $61,000. There is a price to it, but look at that. Who wouldn't want to pay it off in half the time and have money in the bank? So it's up to you what you want to do with that. Now let me go back and change that. I'll change that to low account. I go to low account, change that. Look here. It's going to go back. 8.7. Well, I like that. Okay? Now, let's go to reports. And we're about finished here with this. Have you ever said at the end of the month, honey, where in the heck does all our money go? Or maybe at the end of the year you say, man, honey, what in the heck happened to our money? Where'd it go? You sit down and you make a budget up, and it says after you pay all the bills, you should have $1,500. But you don't every month. It's gone. Look at this. There's 4 different reports here that we can have. See, there's 4 different ones. And we could have it all set up, your own tax. Hey, what if you have a business and you have a business account? You don't want to put your money from your business account in with your personal account. You can do it here. You can have several accounts, different banking accounts. You don't have to intermingle them. Now watch this. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to view this budget report. Now, I've only paid 1 month of bills. It's showing my income folder, my expense folder, my account expenses, funds transferred. Here they are right here. And I can also go down here and I can see exactly what came in and where it went to, how much for the whole month, for that whole month. Okay? Now, I want to print this out. I can go last month, this year. I can hit PDF file, and I can print that out and put it in my records. Okay? I've got it right there at my fingertips at all times. Now, let's go to this one right here. I think this is cool. You remember the old pie shape? Well, check this out. There's my income. That's John and Rebecca's income, $5,000 a month. Food and dining is $415. You see, utilities and bills, gas and utilities right here, $200 a month. We could see this here says uncategories. We could set that up where every one of those, and we could see exactly what part of the pie goes to where. We can see that. And again, it's all down here at the bottom of the page. Okay? I'll tell you what, I like that. I like this just right here. And there's several other different things here that you can click on. But remember, it's real simple. Action plan is where money comes in, where it's going to, just like you're already doing now. Your budget with all your budgeting tools right there. It'll text you and tell you, hey, you're at 15th of the month and you're at $300 and you set the budget at $400, hey, we're not going to stop your credit card if you go out to eat. And let's say I go to McDonald's today and I swipe it and it's $30. You won't catch me there, but let's say I did. Not there's nothing wrong with it. But you swipe the card at midnight, it goes in, swipes, and it goes to all the right places here. It goes into your budget. I don't have to log in there and say that. And then you have your reports. So there's the 4 things right in front of you. It's real simple. If you understand reports, the accounts, the budget, and hey, if you have problems, you go over here to help and you watch the video. It tells you what to do. And or you pick up the phone, call an 800 number, you have a coach and a mentor there. Guess what? For the rest of your life. Now, I hope that helped you some. And we're going to log out of here. I'm going to wrap it up. So we're going to go here to settings. I'm going to go down here to reset account. So I'm going to hit reset because anytime you leave here, I'm going to reset this so the next time I show it, this is a demo. I'm going to hit reset and I'm out of here. Now, I'm going to go back to the presentation. Well, there it is. And we're going to click on here and current slide. Now, these are the 4 gentlemen that actually started this company. I call them mortgage people with a conscience. And we're about to wrap up here. I just want to go over a few more slides and we're done here. And I appreciate you all being on here tonight. I call them mortgage guys with a conscience. Why? Because they had a mortgage business that was very successful. They did very good, but they seen a problem. Now, they've seen a problem, but you and I, most people out there in business will say it's not a problem. They've seen their customers coming back time after time after time to do what? To refinance. Folks, anytime you refinance, you're digging a bigger hole. You're getting in worse shape. You cannot refinance yourself out of debt. You know, Matt right here told me, he said he had a guy, and we're going to say Bob. Bob came in 6 times, and each time he came in, Matt said, Bob, you got to quit this. You got to cut this out. Now, listen, don't you want, if you have a business, don't you want your customers coming back? And he's saying, you got to stop this. And Bob said, I know, but just do it this time. And he came back again. You know, he came back on the 6th time, and Matt said, you know, Bob, I can't help you. See, if he hadn't taken care of Bob, Bob would have went somewhere else. But they looked for a way to help people get out of debt. And they came up with the program 6 years ago. Hey, have you ever heard of Ernst & Young? If you don't know who they are, they're the 3rd largest accounting, tax service, financial planning company in the world. Wow. And they picked our owners as Entrepreneur of the Year 2008. You know, I had a guy who was a doctor one day, and he said, Ken, I like what you got, and I'm probably going to do it, but I like to do my due diligence. I said, Doc, I said, you told me you knew who Ernst & Young was. He said, yeah. I said, what are you going to do that they didn't do? He laughed. He looked at me and laughed. I said, what are you going to fly out to Utah and sit down and go through their paperwork for 8 days? Is that what you're going to do? He said, no. I said, so what are you going to do? He goes, I got you. Let's run my numbers. Next, this is what the industry opinion was about us. These are magazines over the last 2 years we've been featured in, and then more than this, but these are mortgage magazines, real estate magazines. We're on the front cover of both of those magazines, this one, and this one. Hey, Success from Home did a whole magazine about us, but I just want to focus on one magazine right now called Broker Banker. It goes out to loan originators. Now, that is a mortgage company. So you notice it says you first on the front. Here's the guys. Now, folks, let's take a look inside that magazine real fast. Here's one thing that's interesting. They did a 7-page report about United First Financial. Here's what the executive publisher said, and I'm going to quote his words. Now, if he's the executive publisher of a mortgage magazine, do you think he understands mortgages? Well, he should, shouldn't he? Now, here's what he's telling the people that receive that magazine, which is mortgage companies. Quote, I have never personally and or publicly endorsed any product. However, I'm endorsing this one. It's the real deal. Now, folks, did you get a copy of that in the mail, that magazine? No, because you're not a mortgage person. You see, there's a lot of mortgage companies that know about you first, but you know why they're not telling you about it? Because maybe they're afraid you'll pay off that mortgage and never need them again. Wow. You know, that's not true. I have a teacher right now I'm thinking of. He's 27 years old. He had 11 years left on a 15-year mortgage. My wife ran his numbers, told him 3.2 years he'd be out of debt. Guess what? 1 year and 9 months later, he was out of debt. Now, he's 27. He teaches in a middle school. He just started there, so he ain't at the top pay. And by the way, they do a lot of work for the money they get. So it wasn't like he had a lot of money, but he got out of debt in 1.9. That's a lot better than 11 years, don't you agree? He got married, went on a big honeymoon to Bora Bora, and he bought a bigger house, and he's already down. He got a 30-year mortgage, and he's down to 11 years now on that one. That's a pretty smart kid, isn't it? I think so. Now let's wrap it up with John and Rebecca Jones. They have $197,000 conventional mortgage. That's what they owe. After 1 year, they're down to $195,000. They're going to pay on that for 30 years, and they're going to pay $236,000 in interest besides the $197,000 that they borrowed. Let's look at the money merge account. $197,000 after 1 year. The balance is $186,000. They're guaranteed to be out of debt in 11 years based on their income, based on their debt, based on their discretionary. And look at here. Only going to pay the bank $79,000 interest. Now that is $156,870 in their pocket, not the bank's. Well, I wanted to see what it was costing them not to be on the program, folks. So what is the monthly cost not to be on the program? So what I did is I took the $156,000. If they're guaranteed to be out of debt in 11 years, that's 132 months. I divided the 132 months into 156 to get the answer. Before I say that, I got 3 questions I want to ask you. Number 1, do you really want to get out of debt sooner than later? I don't mean do you want to. I mean, do you really want to? I mean, be honest with yourself. Do you want to get out of debt sooner than later? Okay, good. Second question is, if the bank called you up right now and said, hey, we'll take your 30-year mortgage down to 11 years, we'll save you $156,000, and you could keep making the same mortgage payment, would that excite you? That's what I thought. And the last question, would you spend $50 a month to save $200 a month? You probably said all day long. That's what I thought. So let's see what the answer is. So if I divide 132 months into 156, I get, it's costing John and Rebecca $1,188.45 not to be on the program. Now, how many months do you want to wait? If that was you, see, we don't know because you might have not ran your numbers yet. If you did not run your numbers, I would get off the phone tonight, run my numbers. It takes 10 minutes, and they can go to step 1, 2, 3, your agent. You get back with the person that invited you on this call, and you say, I want to run my numbers. We need just some basic information. 10 minutes, we can run your numbers, and you can see what it's costing you. Now, would you pay $50 a month to save $11.88 a month? Well, you told me yes to the $200 a month. I guarantee you'd do it for $11.88. Hey, let's look at my brother's. It's saving him $125,000. He's going to be out of debt in 7 years. Figure out what it's costing him. Take how many months are in 7 years, divide that into 125, and that'll tell you exactly what it's costing him if he didn't get on the program. Well, $50 a month to be totally debt-free in 11 years. Would you do that? I thought so. Now, so what is financial freedom worth to you? I mean, think about it. What would it be worth to you to not have it? Wake up tomorrow and have no more mortgage, no more payments, possibly saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. What would that be worth to you? How about having a financial mentor holding your hand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Because, see, I can go in there and put in something, and it'll tell me exactly what it's going to cost me. Then I can decide, hey, do I want to do that or I don't want to do it? Do I want to get out of debt in 8.7 years or do I want to get out of debt in 10.5? You have the decision. It's in your hands now. And this one here, peace of mind and eliminating stress. You know what the number one killer is right now? Listen, I was talking to a couple the other day, and they were in the mortgage business, and she told me that they had 7 friends that are in divorces today. Now, what do you think it was because of what? It was money. People are stressed out there. One thing I want to tell you, and I'm going to say it real fast, is this is sad. My son's a police officer. He's 21 years old. He started at 19, Marion County Sheriff Department. He told me this a few months ago, about 6, 7 months ago. He said, Dad, I'm running 6 to 8 suicides a week. Now, folks, this is not New York City, Miami, Florida. This is horse country in Ocala, Florida. And he is one police officer, and he's running 6 to 8 a week suicides. Why? And I was telling that story the other day to a real estate broker, and he said, yeah, I believe that. He says, my daughter has 4 friends in her class that one of the parents of 4 kids have done it this year. You know what? I love what I do because when I sit down and show somebody they can go from 28 years down to 7, you know what starts running down their face? Tears. Think about that. Now look at this. How about less than $5,000? I mean, people will pay $5,000, they'll refinance and do what that one guy that thought he was saving $160 a month and cost them money because they don't know better. See, interest rates drop, what are we supposed to do? Refinance. That's what we're taught. We weren't taught about term. We weren't taught about how a mortgage works. Folks, let's not do that. Hey, you say, well, yeah, but I didn't pay that $5,000. They put it in my mortgage. Yeah, you're right. You didn't pay $5,000. You paid $15,000, $20,000 because that was compounded interest also. They got you. Wow, I like when they say, hey, we're not going to take any money out of your pocket. We're just going to throw it in the loan. Hey, thanks, bud. Hey, how about a one-time fee of $3,500 to save that kind of money? Now, you see that and you go, oh, my goodness, $3,500? Hey, folks, you'll buy a couch for $3,500, use it for 5 or 6 years, and throw it out in the garage. I have one out there right now that we hardly ever sat on. It was time to change. I don't know what's wrong with that. Look here. What is the true cost? What's it really costing you then? So let's look at John and Rebecca, and we're about finished. That $3,500, I took the 11 years that we're going to be out of debt. That's 132 months. And I divide that 132 into the 3,500, and this is what it costs in John and Rebecca, to do the program. So that is a monthly cost of $26.52 to do what? To save you $1,188.45 a month. Now, you folks, you tell me, would you pay that to save this per month if that was your numbers? It might be better. It might be my brother's. It might be down to 7 years. You see, you don't know because we haven't ran your numbers. Now, you said, well, Ken, you were talking about would you spend $50 a month to save $200 a month? You're exactly right. Now, watch this. Hey, when you bought your house, did you use your money or somebody else's money? You used somebody else's money. You used the bank's money, so why don't we use the bank's money? Hey, if I have a client that has $3,500 cash and I have a credit card, you know what I do? I tell them to put it on their credit card. Why? Because whose money is that? It's the bank's money. Let's use somebody else's money to get you out of this situation. So we put that $3,500 on a credit card. We pay $50 a month to do what? To save $1,100 a month? Is that better than $50? Hey, you want to know a better one? If you have a home equity line, you put it on there. You know what $3,500 on a home equity line cost you? It cost you about $12 a month. How many months does it take you to save back? If this was you, how many months would it take to save back $1,100 to get your $3,500 back? 3.5 months? Wow. Run your numbers. That's all I'm asking you. Run your numbers. As of April the 20th, 2009, we have changed our customers' lives with, get this, over $355 million in principal paid down. Now, folks, that's not interest. That's principal. Remember, what, the $6,000 knocked off $33,000? If we were talking about interest, it wouldn't even fit across this page right here. And that's not counting cars, credit cards. I'm thinking of a guy right now. He goes to foreign countries, preaches to missionaries. He goes over there and preaches to missionaries. You know what? His sister went to my church. I was going to Ohio, and she asked me to stop and see her brother in Knoxville, Tennessee. I got off the exit. I remember it wasn't but a mile or two off the exit. I went over, sit down in his living room, showed him this presentation. She ran his numbers, told him he'd be out of debt in 4 years. Well, he didn't do it in 4 years. He did it in 3. And you know what's funny? I mean, not funny. It's sad. When he made his last payment, before he made that last payment, he got rheumatoid arthritis. He can't even get out of bed. And he made the phone call to us and said, if I hadn't been on your program, I would have lost my house and everything I got. Now, he's not old. He's 53, 54 years old. But he don't have to lay in bed stressed out about how he's going to get kicked out of his house because of this program right here. Now, listen, all you have to gain is financial freedom. That's it. But run your numbers, get back with the person that put you on this call, and please do that. Get back with them, run your numbers, and folks, if what I'm telling you is true tonight, and it is, can you imagine what we have our hands on here today. I stay very busy every day. I can't get to everybody, and I love that. So listen, if I can leave you with anything, is this. I have some people that says, well, hey, I ain't paying that $3,500. You're not? Yeah, you are. Remember the $125,000 my brother was getting to put in his pocket? If he didn't do the $135,000, guess what? He would pay the $125,000. John and Rebecca Jones, $156,000. Yeah, I ain't paying you $35,000. Don't do it. I get back. If you say that to me, I'm okay with that. You know why? Because I know I'm going to get back with you in a year from now, 6 months from now, and I'll say how things going. And you know what? Most 99% of the time, they're in worse shape. Don't keep doing what you've already done. Somebody says, well, I can do it on my own. Listen, okay, how old are you? How many years you got left on your mortgage? You've done a pretty good job so far, haven't you? Let's do something about it. Don't worry about the cost. Just know that there's a solution to get there. I want to thank you so much for being on the call tonight. I do have some questions here. You can email me. I want you to get back with the person that put you on the phone. And if you have a question for me, you can email me at the number 2, payoff@gmail.com. That's the number 2, PAYOFF @gmail.com. I want to thank you. I'll be here next Tuesday night, or this Thursday, every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'll be here. I thank you all. We had a great crowd on here tonight. I want to thank you all again, and I won't take time to answer questions, but if you want to email that to me, I'll be glad to answer it. Thank you all, and have a great week, and we'll see you Thursday night. Good night.